This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-host, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett's coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Oh, that's what we say, huh? It's Portland, Oregon here, everybody. Hello. Nice to be with you again.
Right. Rather than Portland, Maine, which I think is probably a little bit cold and a little bit more snowy than Portland, Oregon's been.
Yeah. Oof. Alrighty.
Time and space. All right. Well, today we are talking about life as a simulation. Or is life a simulation? And scientists are debating whether or not this reality is a simulation. And they're even researching how to break out of it. And we discuss from the perspective of consciousness. We will be discussing this from the perspective of consciousness. And we might even be able to speak English by that time. So stay tuned, because we're going to be talking to how we can both be in this game and break out of its limitations.
You have to change your thinking, John. You have to go.
I do?
Yeah, you do.
My thinking?
You know, we do. We have to get out of thinking and get into feeling. And I think that's the key that you and I have been noticing. So everybody, here's an invitation to go deeper with us, to connect with us beyond the show. And you can reach us at our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And what are they going to learn about us there, Joan?
Well, they will be able to hear the previous podcasts. So if you are listening the first time, or you've missed a show, all of that is on our website. And then you can also read our blogs. Janet puts hers out on Mondays. I put mine out on Fridays. We have, just as you will detect that we are vastly different personalities, we put out vastly different blogs, but they're all connected with this theme about consciousness. And then our meetups. Our meetups are listed there as well, and Janet does hers in Portland on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I do mine all around the Puget Sound. So actually I might as well just mention now that mine are coming up. I'm doing one on Vashon Island this Saturday, the 11th at 1:30 at the King County Library. I'm going to be doing one the next week on the 19th in Bellevue, on March 19th in the downtown Bellevue, and it'll be at noon. And then the week after that, I'm going to be participating in the Emerald Spiral, which is at the Kent Commons. So that is on March 25th. That's an all-day long thing. I think it starts at 9 a.m. and goes till 5. I will have a booth there, so come on down and see me.
And you can find out more about how we each do our sessions, and we see people on the phone, because we do see you.
Yes. We'll do clairvoyant phone reading.
Yeah, we do that. And or over Skype. And then you can show us on Facebook. We're listed there. You got all that information, John. Facebook address is like up the yin-yang. What do we got
Yes,
there?
Well, it's Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, so I say go there and join the group, join the fun. And then our Facebook groups, they can search for your name, Janet Barrett, and find yours there. And you can search for me, Joan Newcomb, and find mine there. And then they can also follow us on Twitter, because some people, like me, are addicted to Twitter. And so you can follow the show on Twitter at Joan and Janet. And you can also follow me at Joan Newcomb on Twitter. I have a lot of fun there. And you can see our YouTube things as well on YouTube. And you can see my YouTube shows that I do once a week. on the website as well. So
And your
lots
Mystic
of ways
Minutes
to
are there. You have great
Yes.
Mystic Minutes. I love those.
Yeah, I whip those out once a week. Profound little things.
Yeah.
So you can actually binge watch both of those things on YouTube.
And we want to let you all know about our free conscious conference call.
Say that 3 times.
Yeah, forget it. On the third Thursday of the month, the next one will be on the 16th at 7 p.m. It's a great opportunity to join a small, intimate group that's spread all over the country. You know, you look at how these things come together. And we take an hour, we explore, we go in deep. We just do what we do on the show, but we do it with active participants putting in what it is they're noticing about life. And it's a great, great event. I always appreciate it very much.
Yeah, because, there is no time or space, so they're all over the country, and yet we're all one and together. And the thing that people like about our conscious conference calls is they get to be up close and personal with us. There's, it's hard to call into the show live here. It's at work or it's wrong time or you're listening to it 2 days later and you haven't mastered that kind of psychic technology. So this way, when we're all on the conference call together, it is an intimate group. You're not sensing the 190 countries and the, 700,000 whatever people are listening to us. Right. And it's just easier to get a word in edgewise and get Janet bringing us into heart space in a very up close and personal way.
Wonderful things happen there. Wonderful things. Yes. So, what's our topic again? Life is a simulation. Explain that to me.
Okay.
And everybody else listening who's not up on this.
I had been using the analogy in my meetup groups to explain to people that life is like a full immersion video game, and like Sim City or Second Life. And at one level, we are all playing this game as if we're all connecting with people around the planet. And from that perspective of life being a game and being like this full immersion game, you can feel influenced by other people. You set an intention to play your game a certain way, and some player in Uzbekistan could, off your character or take over your castle or whatever game you're playing. And we experience that just going to the grocery store. It's my intention to go to the grocery store. I grab my car keys. I've got my list. I get in the car. And then everybody else whose intention is to get on the road can influence my ability to get to the grocery store. And that's all at one particular level. Mm-hmm. And then I have other ways of describing it. But it turned out that this is actually a theory put forth by, I believe, a physicist in, I can't remember whether it was Oxford or Cambridge. I'm sorry, in Oxbridge. And he did a whole paper on this in 2003, and it's called the simulation hypothesis. And then I discovered that there's these physicists and these cosmologists and philosophers all debating this on YouTube, whether or not this is an actual thing. And then it turns out Elon Musk is quite fascinated by it as well, and he and some other Silicon Valley billionaires are investing in a way to break out of the matrix, to break out of the simulation. So I shared with you, Janet, about this, and, we kind of puzzled over this because the thing that you and I have discovered is they're viewing the whole thing just from the perspective of playing the game at the level I described to you, as if, and so the part that's missing is consciousness. Yeah. And greater consciousness, and not even occurring to them. A philosopher, midway through this 2 week, 2 hour, it felt like 2 weeks. It felt like 2 years. Like that. It was a 2 hour debate. And an hour into it, the philosopher brought up the idea of consciousness, but still to all these intellectual powerhouses who were debating this, consciousness was a concept outside of themselves, just like they were discussing it as if they were the avatars in the game, not even the players of the game.
Yeah. It's the observer effect, right? We forget that in observing, we are affecting what is perceived. We're changing the reality. And it feels like to me that that's we're getting blindsided by, right? As people pursue this and check it out. So we'll talk about this. I mean, it's an interesting thing. And, what is it that's important here out of all of this?
Right. Well, in the part that I want to invite people before we drop into heart space, and then the subject completely changes. I don't care what we were talking about. Let's talk about this. So the part that I want to introduce to people is the awareness that you are not just your avatar, and you also not just the gamer.
Yeah.
And the couple of steps up, the first step up is realizing that you are the programmer of the game. And at that level, you can start using the ideas from The Secret, thoughts become things, and start to program your own game. People do this by affirmations and, thought processes. And that's a level of being the programmer of the game. But the really powerful thing, and the level that Janet and I operate on, is the awareness that we are consciousness creating this reality, which makes us the designer of the game.
Yeah, there's the challenge when you just look at it from a human perspective, which, I so admired all these shows I watched. I sat and went through 5 of these things on YouTube and stuff. And the learning there is just, remarkable. And also, it was all thought. There was no real connection to understanding that this is within each of them and within each of us. And that, and so I was left kind of like, woo, I don't think I can watch any more of this because it was all head.
It was frustrating.
It was frustrating.
And I got really excited when they started talking about consciousness, and then they didn't quite get what consciousness was.
Yeah,
so listen, we need to take a commercial break right now. The tons and tons more that I'd like to share with you about that before Janet brings us into heart space. But right now, we do need to take a commercial break. So you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan. I'm here with Janet, and stay tuned because when we come back, we'll be talking about life as a simulation in a state of grace.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about, is life a simulation?
I gotta say, I loved how you ended before the break, life is a simulation within a state of grace. That kind of just put it like, oh, okay, now I feel home.
Yes.
You know, I mean, there's, yeah, it was just so cold. It was just so cold. And that's not to say anything about the people and their sincerity and how they're doing, but oh my gosh, it was like, I just wanted to hug everybody. You know, definitely. So what is it you wanted more for people to know before we go to heart? Because I think that's where this all has to
yes, I wanted to give them this greater idea, which is a thought, isn't it? An idea. This greater awareness that they are consciousness, and think of the attributes of consciousness, which is infinite and all-knowing. It is both wise and it is infinitely loving. It's got this energy of love. It's got this energy of amusement and light. It is beyond time and space. Within this love, there's also vast neutrality. And the things I notice when I'm connected as consciousness is this sense of amusement, curiosity, and wonder. I don't take things as seriously because I know I'm making this all up. I know that life happens in the blink of an eye, and that it's also all happening simultaneously and instantaneously. So outside of linear time, it's all happening at once. And as the greater consciousness that I am, I'm perceiving all lifetimes, all happening at once. Can't quite figure that out in our little linear bodies.
Yeah.
And we aren't even getting into parallel universes here. But I just wonder now, we've got them all stuck in their analyzer. Take them to their hearts, Janet.
All right. Well, let's do that, everybody. And so no matter where you are, what time or space or situation you find yourself in, the part of you that can hang out with us can hang out with us. And we will, and there was some awareness earlier today when I was looking at this and how to orient. Orientation is really important because we're relationship-based creatures. So we tend to want direction and things like that. So for those of you that are mind-oriented, you may feel this as going to heart, as bring your conscious awareness down to your physical heart. For those of you that are, oh gosh, now that I'm going to explain this is, it's all about language. The language keys us into how we look and reframe our world. And so what is important is just bring awareness. Now, so if I use the word allow, just allow yourself to be conscious of your heart. And you can feel the difference between having to direct out of your thinking into your physical. So just allow your awareness to be present with your heart, your physical heart. So there's no right or wrong. You don't have to go anywhere or do anything. Just allow, and it's the power of allowance. There we go. And so notice your heart. And what happens when you notice your physical heart? Just move into a state of appreciation. It is your sign of life that you are alive. And this isn't about thinking, because you're not believing that you're not believing that you're alive. You are alive. Your being. So just notice your heart. Then the second meaning of heart is the emotional terrain. So just notice your emotions. You may have more than one, and most of the time we do, but some are going to predominate, and that's okay. Just in this moment, allow yourself to be aware of your emotional terrain. Don't judge it. That's an act of mind. Just allow yourself to observe internally. Become aware of your sensations. So it's not about seeing anything. And when I use the word observe, it's just allowing awareness to be present. And be grateful, be appreciative that you have emotions. They add the spice and flavor of life. So, third meaning of heart, the core essence of all. And this is where we step beyond our little human sense of humanity, which we have now acknowledged that we are, because that's what humans do. They breathe, and they have a heartbeat, and they are alive, and they feel. They feel things, emotions, and physicality. So we step out into the core essence of all, which is really just more inward directing, if you like, or just outward, or just the sense that you've gotten expansive. And this is an infinite sea of potential. This is where we are particles of photons, which is just light, biophotons, which are a little bit of mass to them. And this is frequencies and vibrations and resonances and information. And information is just bits and pieces of things. And they all form together into patterns in the way that you individually, uniquely, are going to experience yourself as consciousness. And so as you allow for yourself to experience the particleness, the individual little bits, you'll notice the space in between the bits, and things can start to get fuzzy. Nothing is what it seems like. Nothing is what it is. There we go. That's nice. Go deep. It has a sense of deepness to me in my physical experience, but it's really an expansiveness. It's a retreating from the chaotic energy that we all find ourselves in, this reality, this illusion of what we think life is. So you can just feel this broadening sense of awareness. You can start to feel yourself in nature, which is always great. You can start to feel yourself in, like Joan, who's 150 miles from me, and I can be in that space with her. There is no boundaries here. You can feel your connectiveness where we're all one in this infinite sea. And it's a sea of potential, because potential is no thing yet. It's not energy yet. It's in between. It's what consciousness is. And so what's interesting about this whole discussion about life in a simulation and creator and all that, you just look at it from this place, and that all kinds of starts to shift. And you can see how that's all mind, an active mind. So just notice, what if there was no thinking here? What if you were just being? What if you had access to all? And that means really big. And we don't often have a sense of ourselves as that big. So just we invite ourselves to be in this place, in this space, and we can see from the big picture here, because we do involve our senses. The bigger picture. Oh, that's nice. That's nice, everyone. What you got, Joan?
I got nothing. But it's a very delightful nothing. It becomes, when you bring us into heart space, it gets very diffuse.
Yeah,
it gets
does.
very diffuse and
It
all
does.
over the place.
It does. It's so exciting to be with people like this. The excitement is the human quality, right? But the emotion plays. But it is. It's just so delightful.
I do have something that has popped up for me. I did a meetup yesterday, and I was trying to explain to people about that it's about centering now rather than grounding, And I do a technique with them where they wirelessly connect to the center of the hologram, but I don't define where that is. And everybody has a different perspective because, sometimes some people go more inward. Some people, one person went to another planet because that's where she felt she was originally from. And so what it is as you start to become more aware of yourself as consciousness in physical reality of this being a hologram, which I don't like using it, the description of it as a simulation or it as an illusion, because it's not, it's physical reality, but it is a game. And we're here to experience it in all its limitations.
Well,
anyway,
you're calling it a game because why?
Because we experience, because in the illusion, we assume that it's a lesson and that there are things we have to learn. And then that immediately places us in a position of being a student or that we don't know. It places us.
Yeah.
It plays in the not exactly like less land, but yes, less land. It takes us away from being consciousness playing this game.
Yeah.
And I came across something just this morning. It was a reminder. There's a fellow named Jeff. Last name begins with an F. Forgot his name. Just noticed that he read astrophysics at Cambridge or Oxbridge, and then he had this awakening, and now he does this whole thing called life without a center. What does that mean? Life without a center? Well, it's like, it's just another way to navigate this game.
Well, I think if we use the term game, that means something different to those of us who are adults, right? And so if we put it in the context that this isn't serious, and we buy into these belief systems, these huge morphic fields about what it means to be an adult and a child and all that. And we're not really here to get into all that, except that in referencing it as a game, and whether it's about money or, medicine or whatever it is, it just brings shifts the balance a little bit in the discussion. And you're not so invested. And I think that's something. Humans get very invested. That's why their judgments and their perceptual biases are so strong. It's because we're invested. We make a choice and that's it. And when you put the flavor of a game, then even if it's a simulation or any kind of game, the game ends. And hell, we've designed a lot of games where, I don't have to die. I died, but I don't have to die, and I can go on and we play the game this way. And so we've really kind of brought into our conscious awareness that, how do you want to play the game? Right? Anything's possible.
Well, we've talked about this before with the idea of parallel universes or parallel selves and multiverses. And so there's an aspect that they're all running simultaneously. So there's a part of you that is running this identical storyline of, you as Janet or me as Joan. And, one aspect of the storyline died in a car accident, and the other aspect of the storyline is still going strong. One aspect of the storyline is still, graduated from drama school in London and is on the Royal Shakespeare Company, on stage. And the other part's, sitting in this chair talking to you with an American accent. So that is, I totally lost track of what I was trying to get to there, but about life as a simulation and experiencing it in lots of different ways.
Well, that's kind of, the whole energy of this is about tangents, right? And we're going to probably track a lot of tangents because, okay, the game can play this way and that takes us off on that tangent and then, but here's another one and we can go off on that tangent. And it's all part of the whole in the spectrum, and when we think, the whole thing about thinking is to justify, I think. I think in order to justify. Let me be real clear about that. So if you take the need to justify out, if you don't have to prove anything, and you can shift from believing in things to being, everything changes. So the job of a scientist or a researcher or lots of people is to justify. They bring up a premise and they justify. And that's their job. We've created that as a job so that we can all be clear because life is full of a lot of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. And so we want to be, so we have people in these wonderful fields and I think, I just choose to be. What if I didn't have to justify a damn thing? What would any of our lives be like, listeners, if you didn't have to justify? You didn't have to prove. You could just be. Kind of a thing with that, and I listen to these wonderful people talking about creator energy and things like that, and I was like, only thing humans are going to do is replicate.
Replicate?
Replicate. When you come from that perspective, all you're doing is trying to replicate. If you come from the perspective of consciousness, you're creating. And I think that's the difference because we use the word creator, we made something. I don't think so much. I think we're replicating. I could be wrong, but that's where I'm at right now.
Well, I often say that technology is trying to replicate consciousness. I don't use the word replicate, but it's a really great.
Yeah.
Consciousness, we're consciously trying to strive to have a spiritual experience in physical form. So we create technology to replicate that. Mm-hmm. And there's always going to be a limitation because it's in physical reality. The only time you can have complete no limits is to be in consciousness.
Well, and then we have these, some of us are fortunate to have these incredible experiences, right? And through whatever means of stimulation or what it might be. And then we're looking to replicate it again. And so we use the drug again, or we do the thing again, or whatever it is. And it may fall into the field somewhat, but then maybe it doesn't. Because that's all coming from this outside. And so if you notice that if you have an experience, it is already within you. And what we do as consciousness is, okay, that's in my field already, let me go back to that. And so you don't need to pay lots of monies to reach certain states of whatever it is because it's already within you. And that's important, I think. But this is going to be very all over the place, I can tell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so interesting because we're also doing it on this format where you and I are non-local to each other and to the people listening, and yet then we're also constrained within a format. Mm-hmm. And our format constraints right now says that we have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we will be right back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and we'll be right back talking about life as a simulation after these messages.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about life is a simulation. Or is life a simulation? And how do we know? How would we know?
I looked up the definition between simulation and illusion, because I'm comfortable with the word illusion, and I don't use simulation much. And they're kind of the same ballpark, but not. Simulation was imitation or enactment of something anticipated, or in testing, the act or process of pretending. And illusion was something is not copacetic, really, I think is what I was getting at. A thing that is or is likely to be wrongly perceived or interpreted by the senses. And I thought that was really interesting. Or they can say a false idea or belief. So, I don't tend to use it in that term. I think illusionary is that something is there and it may not be there. It may be there, it may not be there. More for me. But simulation is like you're trying to replicate something. And so my personal definitions don't necessarily match up with what they talk about.
Well, you think of the idea that life is an illusion coming from Buddhism, which was Buddha, lived 2,600 years ago. They didn't have 3D video games. It's, what did he speak? Did he speak Sanskrit? Did he speak Hindi? What did they speak back then? Sanskrit, probably. And so that's a translation to it being illusional. And there is an aspect of playing in this reality when you're at such a high vibratory level. You can do things like the monks are able to do, which is levitate or transmigrate, is it? Be in two places at once. And you and I are finding as we play here in the matrix, so to speak, with consciousness techniques, we can do pretty miraculous things. And so within that, physical reality is malleable, time is malleable. And yet I also like emphasizing to people that it's it's not fake. Because it's not fake. And the reason why we created physical reality is to experience physical reality. So to experience the deliciousness of form and all its foibles. So where was I going with that? But you get what I mean.
Well, I'm realizing illusion, the word itself, has a judgment in it because it's about a thing or that is likely to be wrongly perceived, right? And our perception set, and I realize as consciousness that I'm setting what I think up. I am the game, right? And I'm being in my game. And as consciousness, I'm choosing. So the illusion is the quality that the human views, right? Because it's in judgment. Humans judge. Consciousness doesn't judge. It just says, oh, isn't that fun? And goes at it. And I think there's just a lot of unclarity that we're kind of exploring for people. Or I'm finding within myself as we look at this.
Well, it's really, if you are viewing things as your physical body, as the physical form that is in physical reality, that is comprised of cells and molecules and density and effort, you are going to have a very hard time perceiving consciousness and perceiving things beyond your physical limitations. It's really hard to grok an awareness that is experiencing everything at once.
Well, and it's also hard to grok, your word, that just because I perceive it and recognize it as this doesn't mean it's not that too, or that it is something else. But because I've decided that this is what I allow for in a bigger context, that's what's going to be. 10 things could be present. 10 circles could be present. Why do I pick the one? Why do I only see the one? Why do I only gravitate to the one? Is because of the way I have set my references to be as consciousness. So the human gets to go, oh, it's that one over there. That fits in. I don't even see the other ones. I just go for that one. Mind is a very fascinating creature.
Yeah, so if you think of your physical body as your vehicle in this lifetime, and you know how our cars have these really pretty sophisticated computers in them now, and they have GPS, and our bodies are kind of sort of like that. And they've got the pre-programmed stuff in there.
I think that's the truth of it, right? But most of us are really excited about the Model A.
Yeah.
And we're working on that level. And the computer was always there, but we couldn't see it. We've had to allow ourselves to evolve to that car. The car of today is not the car that it was outside of the parts of, how it moves, I suppose. They have wheels and they have a seat. And so, and all the parts are there, but this model has many more parts. It works totally different. But there's a basis there that's the same. So,
well, and I'd throw in there too that in my perception, our bodies now are like the models of today and able to vibrationally hold a greater awareness than the Model T ever was.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of contradictions in trying to explain this, because at some point the car analogy didn't work for me anymore, and I realized that my body was more like a horse because it has its own personality, and as you ride your horse for a while, it either decides whether or not it can trust you. And, I've ridden my horse off of many cliffs before going, yee-haw, and so it's like, no, Wilbur, I'm not going up that trail. And you as the rider know what the trail is, but you are riding a horse that has emotions, it has memories, it has its own preferences and personality. And we can be, and it's learning that we are both at once and deciding who's actually steering the car or has its hands on the reins.
Well, and that's the truth of it. So I'm the rider. I'm also the horse.
Yeah.
I'm also the environment that the horse is in. And that's why we use the term a game. Because it's all our creation, or what we're allowing ourselves to experience as creation. And we're saying you can change that if you don't like what you've created. So that has no time or space in it.
Okay, so Janet, if we can change it because we don't like it,
Yeah.
can we step into a parallel universe where Hillary is president and they voted against Brexit?
If that's important in your reality,
Duarte
sure.
became president?
But there's a lot of people who aren't going to like that reality. So I would perhaps
That'd be a lot
choose a
calmer and
different
not as
reality.
exciting.
Well, I think what you do is you realize that if that was the alternate reality, that what we're experiencing now is either going to come up or not come up. And what we're exploring in this current reality that we're sharing is so precious, no matter how ugly, no matter what judgment you want to put to it, because this is what's within us or it wouldn't be here. So as we're allowing ourselves, maybe that's what's at play, is how we're all looking to be. And we're seeing how we've set that up. And so I celebrate. I don't find this, I appreciate what people are going through. I also look at it in the context of how much they've created it for themselves. And if I give them that empowerment, then, I feel much better in my world. And I don't have to buy into other people's reality states. I can be in my reality state and it's easier to love them. It's easier to be compassionate because I am loving and compassionate. It's not because I believe in those things. It's because I am.
Well, there's something at the level of being aware that your consciousness is creating this, that you start to realize that there's an attitude that everyone is a creation of your consciousness, so they're not real. And so I was with this group that was all about, that this is a game, and they were busting loose from the game, and there was an attitude of a period of time that, nobody else is real, so I'll just treat them like shit. And what didn't make sense to me is because even if you're viewing everybody as a creation of your consciousness, and I know as a parent, I know as a pet owner, as a plant owner, that I love my creations. So I wouldn't treat them badly because they're precious to me. And the other thing that I've also come to realize is that, yes, on the highest level, I am consciousness creating this as my reality, and I am experiencing this as consciousness in this particular thread, this personality, and everybody else is consciousness too, getting their own individual creations, because consciousness created individuality for the fun of being the opposite of what it is.
Well, I'm struck by your terminology using the word owner of this and that and the other thing. And I would be from the place that we co-create. So as much as we've set up our reality, we're going to work with others who are co-creating with me. And so the dog that might feel like is your pet and that you have ownership of really may be in his environment, in his reality set, saying, I like to hang with Joan, right? Because he could leave any time. So, it's how we set up what we're experiencing.
Right. Your pet is consciousness too, creating its reality. Your plant is because consciousness is in everything.
Yeah.
And so the thing with the term co-creation is that still brings it down to the level of interacting with the other. And
well, it's relationship based.
Right. But it also it is feeling like it's missing the point of being the greater consciousness.
Maybe so. Well, shall we leave people here with this? And
Well,
Explore.
according to Cameron, I have 6 more minutes.
yeah.
I guess we do have 6 more minutes. So we will agree to disagree in consciousness.
I don't even think we're
6 more
disagreeing.
it's semantics.
Stuff out there. Yeah.
Semantics. Is life semantic? Is this the
Yeah.
semantic? We'll leave those questions floating in the wind and have you play with these inquiries and notice them for yourself. And feel free to let us know. You can message us on our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. You can also message us through Facebook or Twitter at Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet on Facebook, or Twitter at Joan and Janet. You can email us, consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's missing the word conversations because we couldn't get an email that long. And you can also go to our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, to listen to the past podcasts, to read our blogs. There's just tons of free content on that site. You can learn about our meetups where you can come and see us face to face if you're in the Puget Sound or if you're in Portland, and learn about our sessions. Janet and I each do sessions. And you can learn about my YouTube videos, and the show itself is on YouTube. And then if you want to get up close and personal and you don't live in the Northwest, or even if you do, you can connect with us once a month on our conference call. You want to tell them a little bit more about that, Janet?
Conference call is a wonderful way to bring all of us right into your headset, your earphones, or however you are on your phone. We take an hour, we access heart-centered awareness, and you can feel it, and we get people pretty much across the country, and we just notice. We notice how we are in our lives and what we want to do with our lives, and where things maybe feel out of alignment about that. And we also witness for each other what might be going on, because I think it's very valuable and rare that you get another energy present with you that is saying you're okay and that we will notice you. And we sometimes have that experience on the conference call of just being there for someone. And it's so, you never know what's going to show up. Kind of like this show, you never know what's going to show up or where you might go. So please join us.
Well, the places you go.
Yeah, really. There's so many things, and particularly this time right now, consciousness is really bouncing us around. Which is really about us bouncing around.
Well, I find that as greater consciousness comes into form, the script breaks down. It turns into something improvisational. It turns into Saturday Night Live instead of your normal soap opera or adventure show or whatever you'd like it to be. And so the ridiculousness of what's going on in the world today, or the fantasticalness of this storyline, whereas you wake up every morning and something more dramatic has happened, is just an indicator that this is a creation of consciousness, and and we get to play outside the box now.
Well, we give ourselves permission to be, right? If you're in warmth, support, and non-judgment, which is what grace is about to me, it's being able to look at our stuff and be honest, right? So many of us feel bad for what we think,
but those are honest feelings,
and those are honest, and they're also judgments. And so if you take the judgment out of it, if you take the critical voice out of it, and you just allow yourself to acknowledge, whoa, oh, look at that, look what I did. It's in your attitude, it's in that state of grace, and not judging it. So it's just information. You just take it back, and you go, okay, now I know what that's like. Can I do something else? Right? We're so powerful. We are each so powerful in creating.
Really quick, I want to let people know about my meetups coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
which are that I'm on Vashon Island this Saturday, the 11th of March, at the King County Library. It starts at 1:30. The next week, I'm in Bellevue on the Sunday the 19th, and that starts at noon. I'm at the Downtown Library in Bellevue. Then I'm going to be at the Emerald Spiral in Kent, at the Kent Commons, and that is going to be on Saturday the 25th of March. I think they start at 9 a.m. So I'll be at a booth doing that all day, and I may or may not have a talk that I'm giving for that as well. So I wanted folks to know about that. We mentioned the Conscious Conference Call. That's going to be on the 16th at 7 p.m.
Oh, and I want to tell people that, come do mine if you're in the Portland area.
Right.
Tuesday evenings and Thursday afternoons. They're 2 different times because of people's schedule. And we really embrace being and in heart-centered awareness. We make it show you how simple and easy it is, just like on the radio here, but I drag it out over the radio so we can catch where everybody is at. But, we have such marvelous experiences. And if you want something different in the world to show up, it starts with you. And so make sure that you're clear about who you are. And that's what we do. We get clear about who we are. So, heartily recommend it.
On that note, I'd like to say that you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. You have been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And I'm your host, Joan Newcomb.
And I'm Janet Barrett. And it's been delightful to be with you. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, no matter what time or space you're listening, you've helped co-create the show today.
And whatever stimulation you're in.
Stimulation, ooh, baby. Yes. So tune in next week, same time, same channels. See you later.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.